If you need to make some Node.js development, you can go ahead and just install Node. I even made a video about it a while ago and it works great, no problem there. But what if you need more than one Node.js version at the same time? And what if you need to be able to easily switch between them? You might find yourself in a situation where you use more than one Node version at the same time and you have to switch between them frequently. For some people, it even means daily. So if that's your case, you can do it yourself and switch manually whenever you need. But it's really inconvenient and you probably want some tool to help you with that. This is exactly what NVM does. It stands for Node Version Manager, and it manages all of the versions of the Node.js that you currently have on your system and allows you to easily switch between them. In this video, we'll see how to install NVM on an Ubuntu machine and how to use it. So the first thing that we're going to do is open a web browser and head over to nvm.sh. And it takes us directly to the NVM page on GitHub. Let's start with the installation section. There are several ways to install NVM, but the simplest is using this script. So we can of course copy all of the code from here and then paste it to a file and run it as a script. But the NVM project already took care of it for us, and all we have to do is run one of these two commands. This will download the script and run it in one command. So you can do it with either curl or wget. I'm going to do it with wget. So let's copy this line and paste it to a terminal. And the script was downloaded and NVM was installed. We can take a look at the .nvm folder. And over here, we can see all of the files that were downloaded for NVM to work. The script also made some changes to our bashrc file. And if we scroll to the end, we can see these lines. And we can see that a new system variable was defined, nvm dir. And we also have these two lines that load NVM whenever a new terminal loads. So for the changes in the bashrc file to take effect, we need to close the terminal, then open it again. And we now should have NVM. Let's try to check which version we have with nvm-v. And we can see that we have version 0.39 installed. And if we take a look at the projects page in GitHub, we can see that the latest release is indeed 0.39.1. So we have NVM installed on our system. Let's try to use it. The first command that we're going to see is Nvm Alias. This command lists all of the Node versions that are currently installed on our system. And we can see that currently no Node version is installed. But we can see another important thing here. And this is an important concept with NVM, and this is the aliases. So there are a few aliases that we should know, and they let us use some meaningful words instead of just the version numbers. The important ones are node, which represents the latest node version, and we can see that it points to stable, which represents the latest stable version. Usually these two are going to be the same unless you have some unstable version, but I'm not going to go into it. The next command that we're going to see is nvm ls remote. This command lists all of the versions that are available to download. And you can see that there is a huge list of them. So here is the latest version overall. And here is the latest LTS version, codename Gallium. And if we scroll up a bit, we can see the previous LTS version, codename Fermium. So let's say that the Node version that I need is this one, 14.19.3, which is the second latest LTS version. To install it, we're going to use the Nvm Install Command. And then we need to specify which version of Node we need. So there are multiple ways to do it. The first one is using the number of the version. So let's just copy and paste it. And let's run this command. And we now have Node version 14.19.3 installed. let's see another way to install a node version. So let's run again nvm ls remote. And let's say that I also want the latest LTS version, codename Gallium. So again, I'm going to use nvm install. But this time, instead of using the number of the version, I'm going to use its codename. So LTS/Gallium. Let's run nvm ls now. And we can see several things here. First, we can see that we now have two versions of Node. The arrow next to this version means that this is the currently active version. Another important thing is that the aliases were updated. So we can see that Node points to stable. And stable itself points to version 16.15. So we can use either Node or stable or 16.15, and all of them mean the same thing. All of them mean the same version. The default alias, on the other hand, points to version 14.19, and that's because this is the first version that we installed. So this is the default version. We can uninstall a Node version with the Nvm Uninstall command. So let's uninstall version 14.19. And again, there are two ways to do it. We can either use its number, like this, but since we have an alias pointing to this version, instead of specifying its number, we can use the alias. So instead of the version, I'm going to use default. And it means the very same thing. So this version was uninstalled, and if we run nvm ls now, we can see that we now have only one version of Node, and we can see that the default alias points to a version that's not available. Let's try to open a new terminal window. And let's see which version of Node it's running. And it doesn't run any Node version. So why is that? Why does a new terminal doesn't run Node by default? The reason is that NVM uses the default alias for new terminal windows. So what we need to do is set the default alias, and we're going to do it with the Nvm Alias command. The alias that we want to set is default, and the value we want to set it to is the version number. So again, we can use either this value, or this value, or this value, or even this value. And they all mean the same. They all point to the same version. So let's set the default value. And when we run nvm ls now, we can see that this is the default version. Let's also install the latest Node version overall. So again, nvm install. But this time, instead of specifying the version number, I'm going to use the alias node. And the node alias means the latest stable Node version. So if we run it, we can see that version 18.4 was installed. Let's run nvm ls again. And we can see that the node and the stable aliases were updated to 18.04, but the default alias is still 16.15. Let's again open a new terminal window. And let's check which version of Node it's running. And we can see that it's running version 16.15, which is the default version. If we now want to switch to the latest version, all we need to do is nvm use and then the name of the version. So again, we can specify the number of the version, which would be 18.4, or we can use the node alias, which points to the latest version we have installed. And if we check which version of Node we're using now, we can see that we're using version 18.4.